On this week's Political Figure episode, we've got old Brandon McDonald Williams of New York's 22nd. Why does the man have two last names? Anyway, Brandon McDonald Williams was born May 22nd, 1967 in Dallas, Texas. He graduated from Highland Park High School, where he played football because, Texas. Fun fact, football is the only reason Texas even has schools. He graduated from Pepperdine University in 1990 with a liberal arts degree, which I must admit I did not see coming. In the Navy, he served as an officer in a long, hard tube full of seamen before leaving the Navy in 1996 to go to the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. The same Wharton where years earlier, Donald Trump's professors would have the displeasure of teaching the dumbest student they would ever have. Their words. After getting his MBA from Wharton, he went on to be an investment banker and eventually a tech bro CEO for an industrial software startup. Lovely. After becoming a multimillionaire doing all that kind of douchey shit, he bought a farm, 67 acres in upstate New York, where he has lavender, honey, bees, and truffles. Although, to be fair, to his credit, I do believe he is the first person to grow truffles that far north. So that's kind of cool. And then in 2022, apparently getting bored with farming, he decided his new hobby would be running for the U.S. House of Representatives, which he did, and he won, and he's been, mediocre. He's so far a one-term congressman, and this term has been part of the least productive Congress in U.S. history. But he was one of 4 New York Republicans to vote to expel George Santos. However, that was probably one of the least controversial votes of this congressional session. It's pretty bad when the party that's in lockstep behind Donald Trump is even like, yeah, you're just a little too much of a liar and a bit too corrupt for even us to get behind. That was a bar I didn't know there was a floor to, but thanks to George Santos for finding it. He said Joe Biden legitimately won the election, which is, the bare minimum. And the bare minimum is about all you can expect from old McDonald, the truffle farmer, because he still voted for Trump both times. He compared the January 6th commission to the Moscow trials, and he voted in favor of the impeachment inquiry into Joe Biden. He also denounced Trump's Manhattan grand jury hearing. So like I said, bare minimum. Like, sure, the election was legitimate, but let's not get hasty in holding the people accountable trying to overthrow that legitimate election. His stances on education are just as abysmal as you'd expect. He homeschools his kids, and he's a big fan of voucher programs, which involve stealing funding from poor public schools and using that to subsidize rich people's private tuition payments. And he voted to overturn Biden's student debt forgiveness, but, he owns a farm, and he owned it through COVID, and do you think he got some PPP loans? Yeah, he did. Do you think that those were forgiven? On immigration, he's voted repeatedly to try to get a border wall bill, but voted against the bipartisan immigration bill that was just really the Republican immigration bill that Democrats fucking handed them on a silver platter, and then Trump said, no, don't vote for that because that'll give Joe Biden a win in an election year, and I don't want that. So they voted against their own fucking bill. Yeah, he was one of those asshats. He wants to cut corporate taxes even more. He's against raising the minimum wage, big surprise. He's against an equal rights amendment being added to the Constitution. He at least still supporting Ukraine, but he's also a big fan of giving Israel lots of money to blow up schools and hospitals. And he says he's changed his mind on a two-state solution and no longer supports it as long as Hamas exists. And of course, like pretty much every other Republican at this point, he hates women. Now, to be fair, he doesn't hate them quite as much as some others in Washington. He was still a big fan of overturning Roe v. Wade and truly believes that the state should have the ability to take away your civil rights and liberties and bodily autonomy. Although he did say he would vote against a federal abortion ban, even though he personally believes in banning abortion. But considering the guy's a douchebag who will only take pre-screened questions at his town hall meetings, it's hard to imagine he could find the spine to defy his party and actually vote that way if he ever had the option. And let's be real, his stance is probably just bullshit in an attempt to try not to lose his seat that he's in a very real position to lose. Because his district had a little bit of redistricting, and suddenly New York State Senator John Mannion, who is running against him, has a little bit of an edge. Yeah, it doesn't seem like old McDonald has been super popular there in his district that until it was redistricted he didn't even live in. And now John, who supports civil rights and women's rights and student debt forgiveness and not giving underfunded schools money away to rich assholes like Brandon, he's looking pretty decent by comparison. So to the people of New York's 22nd, you have an excellent opportunity to be represented by somebody less shitty, and I'm looking forward to you sending old McDonald back to his farm. E-I-E-I-O.